Hi, instead of posting, I decided to make a video based on something that I just happened to get this book, Prediction in Astrology, to help my own astrological work. And I was leafing through it and I came across a section called The Black Death. And I was noticing that this was in it was actually 1348 to 1352, but in 1345, some things were happening in the sky. And some of what they were talking about is similar to what's happening now. They talk about the Mars Jupiter conjunction, the Mars Saturn conjunction, the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, Aquarius, the vernal equinox, when a lot of this was happening. There was an eclipse also, but we don't have an eclipse in that part of the chart, but we do have an eclipse when we have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction this year. So let me just tell you, there was this Jean de Meur, a Parisian, who was a prominent astronomer, and he started making astrological predictions. And what his predictions talked about were there were three planets that he talked about. Saturn, which he called an old man, dark and of somber visage, his face. The second was Jupiter, just, pious, handsome, chaste, devout, and merciful. And the third was Mars, ruddy, bellicose, impetuous. And he said, he attributed the corrupted air to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction 3 years earlier. Now, we did have Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn at the same time. Saturn is still in Capricorn, but they are not conjunct, but they are interacting with Pluto, and they didn't have Pluto in the Black Death charts. We do. Pluto can mean death and rebirth. Pluto in Capricorn can mean the government, the authority, the top-down authoritarianism that's happening. But what he talks about is that when Jupiter and the third planet, Mars, meet, which is happening here around the vernal equinox on March 20th. He says wars, slaughter, floods, corruption of the air, epidemics, discord, and unexpected catastrophes from above. Then he talks about when Saturn and Mars will meet, which happens March 31st, an event which will bring discord, deceit, fraud, wars, violent winds, and disease. Later in the month, when Saturn and Jupiter meet, which we have in December, because Saturn is going into Aquarius in March and then back into Capricorn in July, and then will come exactly with Jupiter in December into Aquarius on the day of the winter solstice, which is highly meaningful astrologically. But he says that combination will ensue changes of kingdom, appearance of prophets, sedition of peoples, new rites, that's rites, so rituals, the way things are done, not so much rights like Bill of Rights. And finally, a horrible blowing of winds, which, to me, he says hurricanes, tornadoes. I'm not sure that normally happens in December, but we've seen some crazy weather. So after all of that, he said that the three planets would return to their own countries. He does also talk about Aquarius, which is where these planets are. They're in Capricorn and Aquarius, which they were in this 675 years ago during the Black Death. These planets were going from Capricorn into Aquarius. He mentioned fixed stars in Aquarius. I'm not familiar with the fixed stars, but they're fixed, so I'm assuming they're still in Aquarius. But he does say that um, Venus and Mars had a sextile at the time, and Venus brings a sextile is a positive opportunity. What we will have in mid-April, around the 15th, is Venus trine Mars. Venus is in Taurus, which is stability, security, finance, maybe security and stability of the economic situation. Though it is close to, it will be past Uranus. Uranus kind of shakes things up. Venus may be experiencing that right now because it's closer to Uranus. But things should stabilize, and he calls this a grace from the Creator over the scourge, when this positive angle between Venus and Mars. So we will have that in mid-April. We may feel some kind of grace, some kind of happiness, an easement or harmony happening over the skies. But we do have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December, which he does say brings changes of kingdom and new rites, new rituals, and sedition of peoples. I don't know what sedition means. I keep thinking of it in relation to slavery, voting rights. I don't quite remember what sedition means, but I will look that up and put that down in writing. So I just thought this was kind of a unique coincidence between the Black Death and what's happening now, and the planetary alignments in the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. Take care. Pay attention to the sky.